Good afternoon. Thank you so much. When I was young, my father wanted me to get an exposure. He was tasked with setting up a rep network in the United States and also in Europe, and he would bring the sales reps home so I could get an idea of what being a businessman was. And in 2001, I brought my son here to get an idea of what I wanted for him. And I've seen a lot of things on various blogs of people saying how much they enjoyed this, but I can say with unmitigated gratitude that this program literally played a part in my son surviving Afghanistan and my surviving a real stupid event I'll tell you about in a while. But there's a healing element for both of us to give us an intuitive sense and receptivity to the mythological, which I want to talk to you today. I'm pretty excited about this Into the Mythic thing because it was completely by accident, as much of this program was. In talking, I never realized this was a twist of words for me, but I never realized that Van Morrison wrote this as finding your place in the universe, which is what I hope to talk about today. Y'all remember this song, I assume.
We were born before the wind.
All right, we're back. All right. My daughter is a nurse midwife, and she asked me, Dad, what are you going to talk about at Creativity and Madness? And I said, well, I want to talk. I was enthralled with a woman. She went to the Frontier School of Nursing in Kentucky, and I told her I was absolutely enthralled with her founder, and I wanted to do something on self-care. And my daughter looked at me like I was from Mars and said, Dad, at any hour of the night, she would saddle her own horse and go like she was on fire through Appalachia, and at night, and then sleep on a dirt floor. And when she fell off a horse and broke her back, she started using a Jeep instead of a horse. She knew nothing of self-care, neither do you. I said, what are you talking about? She said, you've had 6 major surgeries in 2 years. I don't think you're a poster boy for self-care, pardon me. And we kid had a point. I do know about self-care. It's just expediency gets in the way. For 10 years, I was working with a company in England, and I would stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to talk to them. And so I was averaging about 6 hours of sleep a night. And, when I went to the gym, I didn't have time to warm up. I just had time to do stupid stuff. And I'm really grateful to be here today. This is my friend Baron Woolman. He and I shared the stage a few years ago, and all of those pictures he shot. And he touched everybody in the audience, because who hasn't heard of Mick or Jimmy or Janice or anything like that? He talked in the same way. Well, I'm a little bit taken aback because I'm going to be talking from the first person too. And that's pretty intimidating, but it's the only way I could feel to tell it. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are children or grandchildren of World War II vets? Good. I hope I tell your story too today. And any of you guys from Vietnam? I ride with a lot of them in Patriot Guard rides, and they want to make sure their younger brothers get welcomed home a little bit better than they did. So anyway, that's what I want to talk to you to. Okay. So that's why I want to talk to you about my experience in growing up. You know, it's funny, because you remember the Robert Fulghum book, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten? My father learned everything he needed to know in prisoner of war camp. And unfortunately, that impacted our family myth. And I want to share our family myth in that perhaps you'll look at your own family myth, because mine damn near killed me. It fell short. This is Karen Armstrong, and she was a brilliant book. She wrote about how since the time of Paleolithic times, I get that confused with the diets, keto and paleo, I don't know. Maybe she wrote from the keto times, but she said that early on we talked in logos, which is a very straightforward technical language, and we talked in mythos, which is more about finding your place in the world, about finding meaning and purpose, and that's very important. But since the time of the Enlightenment, if we can't prove it with the scientific method, it's useless. We don't accept it, because it's funny, researching my program, I probably found 30 or 40 things related to what I'm saying, the myth of this, the myth of that, the myth of this, the myth of that. And for some reason, mythic language has fallen off, and I think that's really tragic for all of us. That my point is I hope to inspire you to find your own myth. He said that this presentation is to offer a divergent approach, to use myth, which according to Joseph Campbell has a basic function of helping each individual through the journey of life, providing the sort of travel guide or map to reach fulfillment or bliss. Now, this is my path to wholeness. Can you relate? I don't think they're all that linear. But Houston Smith was a friend of Joseph Campbell, and he said that he didn't like him using the term bliss because bliss could be short-circuited. As you know, that Smith participated with Leary and Alpert doing LSD. He didn't like it back in the early days of the psychedelic movement. So he said he'd rather use the term aspiration or inspiration instead of bliss, which works good for me. I learned the importance of myth a few months ago. We were watching this movie called Hollywoodland, and I found myself just crushed. It's a sad movie. It's about the suicide or other possible theories of the death of George Reeves. But something got me really bad. That it wasn't just a movie, but I remembered Truth, Justice, the American Way. Remember that? I remember how crushed I was when Superman killed himself. People made jokes about it, but at 5 years old, he was supposed to be faster than a speeding bullet, was he not? And I think there are a lot of little kids. Think about it. How many of you did that? You know, I thought I was really going on. We used to dive off my roof into the pool, so my keep really worked. And then, of course, the Superman tale is just a retelling of Superman. This was Steve Reeves, who I should have learned from. He pumped iron until he was in his early 30s and then began power walking and died he was at 74 when he finally passed, but that was due to a complication of surgery. Now, this is a result of a bad, faulty family myth and also of burnout. Burnout wipes out your immune system, among other things. My kids are trying to cheer me up, but I'm actually on the wobbly on a basketball thing where I'm either going to live or die. I had peritonitis and septicemia for about a week before I went to the hospital to get it treated. I was not in good shape, but the thing is also my family myth. It's so embarrassing. I thought I could tough it out, a burst appendix, and I refused till my wife finally insisted that I refused to go to the hospital, but I'll tell you more about that. That was Thanksgiving. I had cherry jello for Thanksgiving, but that cup I'll tell you about in a minute has very symbolic stuff. But the bottom line is I allowed myself to get to a place, and I will say over and over again that people try to minimize burnout, but it can kill you. You know, again, yes.
Sorry, I have to adjust the mic a little bit.
Please do.
Your stubble is
Thank you.
really scratching it.
Are we good?
Let's try that.
Okay. And in terms of burnout, sorry, I don't know if you realize that suicide kills more police and firemen than in the line of duty. Burnout kills them. It's a very important subject. That's why I want to deal with it today. Now, this is something my wife wanted me to tell you about kairos, about timing. How many of you plant bulbs in the fall and dig them or let them grow in the spring? I actually dig them up in the winter to make sure they're doing okay. And I kill a few in the process. And that's what was killing me with my own burnout. Oh, at the time with this, I was tired of practicing. I was tired of dealing with insurance companies. Anybody ever deal with that? You know, I was so sick of them. And then I had patients that were making me nuts because I was doing all the work. I had passed out maybe 10 copies of Man's Search for Meaning, and the only guy that read it was a guy that lived in his truck, and he read it in Spanish. So I was done. And then I had a killer. This guy was really fun. He had tormented a celebrity for a couple of years until they finally put him in a state hospital for a year. They let him out, and he did the same thing all over again, so they put him in a state prison for a year. And then they said they had to come sit with me. Now, he was really PO'd that he had to come with me, but he didn't understand. I was just as PO'd that I had to put up with him. And what he would do, he was so passive-aggressive, he stuck a screwdriver in his back pocket, and he would sit in my chair and wriggle his butt. And I'm like, I didn't take any psychoproctological courses. I don't know. I'm not going to ask him what to do. And what he was doing, he was tearing up my couch, which my wife was pleased because it was a vestige of my single days. But yeah, I was done. I didn't want to see another patient, but also my business dropped at the same time. So everything kind of came in on me, and then my health did too. So anyway, also, my wife goes, Greg, you're planting seeds. I said, I'm throwing seeds on the asphalt. Yeah, I guess I am. But they still come up. And there's one up in Big Bear. Now, here's a place that means so much to me. Chimayo, have you all been? To go up there. There are a number of little miracles that have happened to me, but one was special. There was a cross there that a guy carried during the Vietnam War from Grants to Chimayo. He did it as a pilgrimage. And I thought, what a great idea. And so I went to St. Michael is the archangel. He's the patron saint of warriors, of airborne troopers, and first responders. So I was going to do whatever I could. Now, which was interesting because I went into the gift shop, and they had this really bitchin' cup, which you saw up in the previous shot. And I asked them, could I have one? They said, no, they're not for sale anymore. We haven't sold them for several years. And the day you saw me was where I hadn't been to surgery yet, and they were really unsure about what was going on with me, and I was pretty messed up. And all of a sudden, my wife brings a box to me as they sent me from the mission. They said, 3 to 5 years later, here's your cup. For some reason, we've been worried about you and been praying for you. Pretty cool. But anyway, I prayed to St. Michael. He didn't mind that I'm not Catholic. I didn't advertise it, but check this out. This is in Afghanistan. This man on the right, in the middle, and on the left is 6'8". He saved my kid's life. Guess what his name is? Michael. Now, this is Eric when I first brought him here. We were up in Taos, and we decided to get him a tattoo, particularly because it's legal here, not in California, and I knew it'd just light his mother up to no degree. But Eric met people like Godfrey and realized there's a bigger world out there, and really developed an intuitiveness to art and what we do here. So I took him, and he really helped out, but his life changed. This is my father's funeral, or a picture from my father's funeral. This is my dad. I asked my dad what the happiest day of his life was, thinking it was when I was born. I was wrong. And he said the day that I got my sergeant's stripes, and Eric took that and he joined the Army. And his first trip was to Haiti. Believe it or not, we played a very critical role in Haiti. Up here, the guy with the baseball cap, Sean Penn. And creativity and madness, the tentacles of this program reached there, because my son went up and said, my dad did a program on Hunter S. Thompson. And Penn goes, he was one of my closest friends. Why don't you come by my compound and we'll talk about him? But Shen, Penn can get really weird, but he brought an entire medical team to Haiti. And now this one is Eric. He tended, all these kids' parents were killed in the earthquake. And then here is how bad it got. There were some not so good people that were trying to hijack the food and sell it to others. And the army had to protect them from doing it. This is David Gilkey. I had the chance to talk to him. He was a photographer with NPR. He shot a picture of my kid in combat. He sent me a CD from Afghanistan, and he was killed in 2016. But here's Eric now, a little bit different than long-haired Nirvana from getting his tattoo, but he's doing well. And this is him at work. Now, how many of you, when you're going through a struggle, somebody goes, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger? You've heard that one? Yeah. You know who said it? Nietzsche. And guess where he died? In an asylum out of his damn mind. So if it doesn't kill you, it can still mess you up pretty damn bad. But he did say, people have always endeavored to understand antiquity by means of the present, and shall the present now be understood by means of antiquity? And he's right. Robert Johnson writes these little books, but they're so poignant. He says that we haven't changed that much physically in the last 2,500 years, so he doesn't expect that we've changed that much spiritually or emotionally in the last 25 years. He says, first we must think mythological, powerful things happen when we touch the thinking which myths, fairy tales, and our own dreams bring to us. The terms and settings of the old myths are strange. They seem archaic and distant to us, but if we listen to them carefully and take them seriously, we begin to hear and understand. And the place that he did that, I don't know if any of you have heard about The Theater of War by Brian Dories. He's an amazing man. He's a dramatist and a classicist, and he designed a program for PTSD for returning soldiers and Marines out of plays by Sophocles. Now, Sophocles, some of you may not know, was a general, and his first audiences were his warriors coming back from war with the Trojans. But this is what he did was he translated first Philoctetes and Aias, or Ajax, for the warriors. And then they got, the Department of Defense believed in these guys so much, they scheduled 140 shows. It really helped the guys that much. And what Philoctetes, this is an amazing tragedy where he was a warrior heading to go fight the Trojans, and the weather got bad, so they pulled off on this island. And when he was on the island, he got bit on the foot by a snake. And a snake made him scream. It was painful, and it made his foot smell really bad. And his buddies did what they should not have done. They left him. They stranded him. And then they got almost to Troy, and then they figured out, wait a minute, Philoctetes has the bow and arrows of Hercules, and we're screwed. So they went back. They went back, and it was about them trying to entreat Philoctetes, and Philoctetes told them what, well, I won't go with that, but Hercules said, you got to help out, and he did help out, and it all worked out. Now here with Ajax, he was a warrior, and he was Achilles' best friend, and Achilles and he were the two best warriors, so when Achilles was killed, it made sense for him to get Achilles' armor. But Agamemnon and I forget the other guy said, no, we're going to give it to Odysseus. And made Ajax so angry, he went to go kill the Agamemnon, but he ended up, Athena stepped in and made him imagine that a herd of cattle were his bosses, and he killed them. And he felt really bad, and he decided to go throw himself on his sword, which was to everybody's tragedy. But at any rate, that's the way the play went, and that's what they translated. But this is the theater of war. As you see, David Strathairn's there, Paul Giamatti, Jake Gyllenhaal. He takes these quality of actors to go put it onto these poor service guys who've been voluntold. But the reality is it's so amazing. This private got up in front of a bunch of officers, and they asked him, why did Sophocles write this? He said, because he wrote it for morale. I said, it's a tragedy.